Hi everyone, welcome to this webinar, part of the Level Up series brought to you by the Digital Economy Programme. It's great to see so many people sign up and arriving and taking a positive step in getting their business online and growing their client base there. So as we have people join us, I'd like to thank you and take a moment to do a land acknowledgement. We want to acknowledge that in the province of Alberta, we're situated on the traditional territories of Treaties 4, 6, 7, 8, and 10, ancestral homeland of diverse First Nations group, Métis and Indigenous people whose ancestors have walked this land since time immemorial, and whose histories, languages, and cultures continue to influence our vibrant community. We pay respect to the Indigenous people of this land, past, present, and future, while recognizing their cultural heritage, beliefs, and relationships to the land on which they reside. An extra big thank you. We were just saying before coming on this, it feels a little like the holidays already started with it being Canada Day tomorrow and everyone's long weekend. So thank you for joining us. We know entrepreneurs and small business owners never stop working, but thanks definitely for joining us this afternoon. I'm joined by Kelly Doody from Social School. Thank you so much for joining us, Kelly, for this 5th of 12 workshops on various digital marketing topics. And today we're looking at that kind of favorite of the marketing mix. I remember back in university studying, doing a course on this. I'm sure you will make it more interesting, and it's definitely a modern take on that. Just a quick kind of heads up about the Digital Economy Programme. There is the main part of it, really, apart from these webinars, are the one-to-one support that you can get for your small business. The place to find out more about it is dep.businesslink.ca, but really at its heart, it's putting you with a trained young person who is experienced in working with small businesses and helping them get online. So if you're feeling overwhelmed, if there is some kind of maybe a technical aspect that you're not sure about, it's really giving you that feeling of not being alone, and someone there will work and support you. The application process is really, really easy. And even as part of that process, you kind of will be able to do an assessment and get an understanding of, okay, well, what are my strengths right now? What I need to work on, and where will I need to get support? So lots and lots of information there. Anyway, over to Kelly though. So like I say, our 5th webinar, we take about an hour here, but they really come to life when we have questions. So the question and answer tab is open. So feel free as we go through, if you have anything at all to ask those questions. And secondly, the question always comes, will the slides be sent to us? Yes, a recording of this will be sent to us. The resources will be sent to you in an email. You'll get a link. I bet that question still gets asked, though. We will review that at the end, but I look forward to that. Anyway, over to Kelly.
Thanks, Matt.
Thanks.
And to reiterate, oh man, way to go, everybody. It is definitely feels like the long weekend's almost started. So let's learn some stuff and talk about some deep dive marketing mixy, relevant things for our businesses before the long weekend begins and we all head out and enjoy some sunshine. As Matt said, my name is Kelly, and as many of you have heard me say throughout the series, my company is called Social School, and our entire mandate is to better skill up and train and equip small business owners, particularly across Alberta, with the skills they need to properly market their business. So, that doesn't end at marketing. It leads right into sales and conversions and revenue and success. And as we all know, if we don't tell our story, somebody else will. And thus, it's really important that we take hold of our message and our audience and our purpose and value. And then, of course, all the tools available to us. So that's what we're talking about today. There is no shortage of those tools in 2022 for us to lean on. Most of them are free. We're talking social media, email marketing, websites. Sure, they have some costs associated with them here and there, but for the most part, we're talking about very affordable or free of charge tools and platforms that are at our disposal like never before, where we are able to post and promote and sell our services and our wares and our offerings to an untapped market, to an unprecedented amount of people, and to do so at scale. So no longer are we relying just on physical handshakes, door knocks, phone calls. We're able to post once and sell often, or respond to a review in a really positive and kind of attractive way, and have so many more people maybe fall in love with us as a result, or at least want to work with us. So digital marketing has no end in its capabilities to reach and resonate with people, and that is essentially what we're trying to do across the board. What is challenging, of course, is deciding where to spend your time and energy, particularly if you don't have a 45-person marketing department. And most of us are lucky if we have a 1 or 2-person marketing department. Some of you are from much larger, more established organizations, but a lot of us are either relying on our own resources or outsourcing strategically wherever we can. But that might just be your photography or your graphic design, not all of your marketing. So I always like to say that we get empowered, we learn and build a strategy, and then we outsource accordingly or hire and delegate accordingly if needed. So we're going to talk about some of the additional tools and tactics that we haven't yet explored. And further to our audience building session 4 weeks ago, audience identification was workshop number 3. We're going to better understand not just who the people are, but how to reach them with what they need to hear in that moment. It's not about what you and I want to say. It's about what our audience of prospects and customers needs to hear from us in order to, solve their problems and get them to convert. And then finally, using our customer journey, sort of what we know of what our prospects understand about what we do and offer, and what we need to do to educate them and nurture them and get them to the point where they take action with us. So as Matt said, please fire any questions up to the Q&A as they arise, and we will stop throughout the presentation and address some of them, and then address all of them at the end. So when we think about the platforms or the tactics, there's, like I said, no shortage. We can't be everywhere. And if I try to reiterate one thing at every workshop, class, conference that I teach at, it is that you need to pick your battles. Pick the horses that you can back well, 1 to 3 tactics or areas or platforms that you can execute on in a proficient and sustainable manner. Not, tackle 15 different platforms or tactics and then burn out a month later and feel like it's not working. We need to start where we can and then add on from there. This is 1000% dependent on the maturity of your marketing program and your resources. If you're just starting out, obviously you're working on strategy, probably your website and messaging, and then maybe a social platform or 2. If you're further along, we're getting into, leveraging our search engine optimization, paid and influencer campaigns, advertising opportunities, etc. So please take this with a grain of salt. I want to paint the picture for you of the big mix. And then, of course, it's up to you to determine where your biggest opportunities lie. And as I always say, we want to work backwards when answering that question. It's not about where you want to be, it's where your people are. And I'm sorry to say that if they're hanging out on Snapchat and that's your audience and your demographic of purchasers, that's where we need to go. None of it is rocket science, I promise you. It can be intimidating or overwhelming when we're not familiar with a platform or a tool, but it is very simple. As I like to say, if my 10-year-old can figure out TikTok, so can I, and so should I. So where do we show up? The big question. Now we can determine this in a couple of ways. But of course, as I said, who are my people, which we started to talk about last 2 weeks ago, as I mentioned, 2 workshops ago, I'm sorry. And where do they turn their attention to? What are their priorities, pain points? What do they need from me? How do I solve their problems? Drop their shoulders, be their hallelujah. Oh my God, this is what I've been looking for. I'm going to purchase, phone, subscribe, book a meeting right now. And again, move from there with them. So if you need to go back and look at workshop number 3, I'm going to, throughout this workshop, because we're at this pivotal time of exploring our marketing mix, I'm going to be referring to other workshops in our DEP series throughout this hour. So workshop number 3, we did look at audience identification, kind of questions to ask ourselves, and the way that we can further narrow in or target those people that we want to reach. So I encourage you to maybe revisit those exercises if you didn't get a chance to fully flesh them out or take part in that workshop. And then, of course, the second question is identifying the places and spaces along our ideal customer journey, and knowing that we have to show up there. So if, we'll talk about this as we go today, but if I am car shopping, and Toyota wants to capture me as a new customer, Toyota better know where I'm at in my journey, i.e. how educated or not am I in SUVs or electric vehicles or whatever it is I'm searching for in my Google query. And second, they need to know where to show up to reach me with the right messaging at that time in my journey, from dummy, newbie, prospect to buyer or repeat customer. So we'll look at that a little bit today too. So first things first, I want to really establish the lay of the land of what I've always referred to as the big 8 buckets. Have they evolved over the years? Yes. But today, with where we're at now, I can tell you that there's 8 tactical areas for us to focus on. So when I say tactics, I don't necessarily mean email marketing, social media marketing. I want to think about areas. I want you to think about whether or not you've kind of covered these bases, and it might help you determine where to focus on in your marketing mix, and again, sort of priority areas. First things first is messaging. We've talked about this right off the bat. This was workshop 2, purpose and value. We need to define our unique content and our unique value proposition or offering. What makes my t-shirts different from the other girls? What makes my dental clinic that much better or more attractive or relevant for you as my customer? What are my standout points? What's in it for my people? And why should they care? If I'm just another restaurant, I'm just another restaurant. But if I'm doing X, Y, Z, different, better, more fun, faster, stronger, smarter than anybody else, well, now I'm getting somewhere. And of course, from there, I need to figure out a way to convey it. So messaging is really important. Our challenge, of course, is answering the call for one-to-one communication, which you and I crave and actually expect in this very crowded world of spam and advertisement and spin and distrust. I expect to be talked to in the way I want to be talked to, but the messaging that's relevant for me at the time and place I want to hear it, and for the right reasons. And as marketers or businesses, we have to recognize that because, well, we too are the general public, and we know how much we want to be communicated to in a way that actually, has our best interest in mind. Not that spray and pray, big box messaging, as we say. I like to say, speak boutique. Talk to me as if I've just walked into your store and we're speaking one-to-one. Communicate with me as if you know me and you know my needs. Otherwise, I'm going to unsubscribe. I'm going to unfollow, or certainly not necessarily stick around your ad campaigns. So communicating the right content to the right people at the right time for the right reason. And this is one of my favorite, because I'm this much of a nerd, my favorite kind of diagrams of how this has evolved over the years. And at first, all we were able to do is send our message to the right people, because we knew they were on the Facebook, or we knew they drove by that billboard on Highway 1 every day. But were we able to do much more than that? Not necessarily. Well, then we started to have so many more insights as things got more digital. And I could see that people were opening my e-newsletter a lot on Tuesdays. So I'm going to send it on Tuesday mornings because that's when my open rates are highest, or my Facebook posts get the most likes, or whatever your campaign is. And then we're going to do it for the right reason. Well, now they're subscribing to just my culture newsletter, not my fashion and food, or just the male generated or oriented products, not the female or millennial or whatever. I'm segmenting, I'm targeting, I'm gleaning more information off of my people, even if it's so basic. Gender, age, income bracket, all of these things have become available to us through the tools at our disposal, whether that's Facebook Insights or Instagram or LinkedIn or email marketing opens and click-throughs, and more importantly, website analytics. Thanks to the power of Google Analytics, which again, another free tool, I can see who's on my site, for how long, what pages they open, when they open them, where they come from, all their behaviors, the acquisition of what's generating the most traffic for me, what channels are sending people to my site. Unbelievable amounts of information. So we get to that green level where now we're aiming for right content, right campaigns, right people for the right reason. So content targeting and segmentation, or rather messaging segmentation, has given us a lot of ability to cut out all those people that actually are not in our customer base and don't care what we're selling. And now we're able to drip. Instead of spray and pray across the apple or the orchard, we're able to drip our message into just the right inboxes and news feeds of the people who actually want to hear from us, or should want to hear from us. They just don't know it yet.
And just on this, Kelly, just so people don't feel overwhelmed, like, we can start where it's red on that line, can't we? Like, we're not necessarily going to be able to jump straight to, like, I've got this kind of perfect algorithm for reaching people with the right information at the right time when they're doing the right thing. We start somewhere, hey?
That's right. Absolutely. That graph just shows a sort of the evolution of where we've gotten to, and whatever you're able to pull from there is fantastic. But I think what we know to be true is that there's more information about our customers than ever before. And we can use that to our advantage. We don't have to be Coca-Cola or some giant organization to do so. It's within all of our power to better segment and target our messaging and hone our messaging to the people that we want to reach.
It's amazing, yeah, that power. Even if we just think about the last 20 years, how much sophistication a small business owner has at their fingertips to be able to deliver these messages. It's incredible, isn't it? In the past, yeah, like, we'd think, okay, let's run a radio ad on the country station because our clients, customers are more likely to be there.
Yeah.
To where we're at now of connecting. I think you gave an example about targeting people who were at a specific conference on a specific afternoon. To have that level of sophistication, it's
absolutely
such an opportunity. Yeah.
Yep. And at Social School, we often talk about now it's art meets science. And we can have all the pretty graphics and messaging and taglines and headlines and captions that we want, the most beautifully curated Instagram feed. But if we don't combine it with science, as in back-end data, insights, targeting, segmentation, retargeting people that were on your website yesterday, or geofencing around a specific conference that you don't want to exhibit at, but you want to target people in that building. We can do that, and that's who's winning. It's people that are combining the art and the science, or the left brain and the right brain. So yes, and again, none of this, the reason I'm talking about this to most of us as small business owners, and that we teach it daily at Social School, is because we all have this ability, but so few of us are using it. And it's unfortunate, because really these tools are at our fingertips, and they just take a little bit of time to think through, and a little bit of work on the front end to better segment your email list, for example. And then, I know most people say, well, now I know exactly how to speak to them. I just wasn't sure how to better divide them up at the outset. Okay, number 2. So we're talking about content, and in our, oftentimes we refer to the ABCs of social and digital marketing, which we'll look at in a second. But the C really is the content piece. And we talked about this in workshop number 4, of course, story and content. So what we're doing is we're trying to build what we would consider content pillars, or, themes of our storytelling. First things first, what are those most important key messages that you need to get across? What do I need to know as a outsider of your business about what you do and offer, and why I should care? And these are sometimes really overlooked by businesses and their teams or their staff. And it's important to write these out and revisit them, and they can provide fantastic jump off points for our content. We talked about the major happenings in our business, both from a sales perspective and a marketing perspective, AKA what do the customers care about, like the marketing angles. Is it back to school? Is it Canada Day weekend? Is it summer holidays or Mother's Day, tax season? Or is it your goals that you care about? So it's, whatever it is, some kind of year end, or is it your big sales season, or is it your time to order and forecast before the big sales ahead 2 months from now. So we're just being conscious of our content calendar and where these things fall throughout the year. And then of course, those pillars and categories. So we went extensively into these in workshop 4, and I encourage you to revisit that if you need to as well. The A game, of course, is what I think has replaced the 4 Ps of marketing. And this is some really important words for us to think about in the bucket of content. How can we be as authentic as possible, as real and non-robotic and not fake or distrustful or, spammy? How can we show the real people behind the company like never before? Because guess what? That's what you and I as consumers and prospects care about. I want to know who I'm working with and buying from. Do I like them? Do we have similar beliefs, or are they just personable and trustworthy? And how much can you make yourself authentic and accessible? I don't mean by phone or 24/7 availability. I mean real, human. Show up in video format, run some webinars, do Q&As, put your people into your messaging and marketing, and don't be afraid to pull back the curtains on exactly what makes you tick and why people should want to work with you. It works like crazy today because there's so much distrust in all of us now, in everything from government to media to academia to whatever. And the people we trust are those that we can actually see and hear from. Authority, of course, is so important because while I can create all the pretty fun videos I want, or talk about the people in my organization, or show some fun memes and graphics on my social feeds, I also have to show I know what I'm doing. So where can you showcase your expertise? How can you show that you're an industry insider and weigh in with insightful educational content as well as the personality and trust building types of content? And then of course, advocacy comes when we do all this stuff really well and our customers want to tell our story, even if it's just in a quick review or a share or a recommend to their friends. But this is where the scalability of social media and digital marketing really comes in, because again, we're not relying on one-to-one conversations. We're relying on the power of the internet and our existing customers to help tell our story and spread our word. And that's where things really start to take off for people. And then the B game, of course, is the whole belonging thing we often talk about. If you can get people beyond feeling like they just sort of know you to they have some affinity for your company, they have some understanding, or they're an insider, they belong. I can give you some examples, but you have them yourself, of those brands that attract people that feel like they share those same values. And the only way we can really get to this place is if that brand has set the stage and allowed us to engage. So I know what they stand for because I can see the people behind the brand, and I know what their values and what makes them tick, and that's exactly what's drawing me to it. And the reason this is important is because we have so much choice today and so much shop around behavior like never before as a result of all the options in the palm of my hand at any time, and my ability to order or book or reserve a table from anybody, or try a new dog groomer tomorrow, or wine import business the next day. And so those that make us feel a sense of love and belonging that go beyond a bit of loyalty, which is fleeting, really earn our long-term purchases and endorsements. So the belonging is really important. And you can think of big brands that have done this so well, and it's the big Apples or Nikes or some of those giant sports organizations, etc. They create a sense of community that goes beyond just the product or the service that they sell. We also know that the age of the individual is here, and it's not going away. Our expectations as consumers, viewers, subscribers is higher than ever. And it can be overwhelming, as Matt said, to think about like, how do I reach all these people just right with what they want to hear? But it can also be quite simple if we just stop to listen. We see what they're saying and engaging with and needing from us, whether or not we've filled that void yet, or we see an opportunity to do so with an expanded product offering or a new social channel we should show up on, or a new type of video content that they're asking for with, Q&As or behind the scenes or whatever it is. but we're servicing that, or we're at least aware of that, that expectation. The next piece, of course, with content is the idea that the experience is so much of it. I don't want to be sold to, but I want to experience a brand, an event, some kind of customer engagement tool that you're using. And then I'll tell your story. I want to go to your restaurant and truly like sink into the experience of it and share that. Or maybe it's a consumer good. We've seen this with a company like Yeti, but many examples out there where they know that if they painted a picture of their products or services in an aspirational type way, they'd get so much further than if they just did it salesy or product first type marketing and advertising. They want to show people living their brand, and they plant product or freebies or whatever with people that they know would represent their customers and that can tell their story for them in an authentic way. On the flip side, we look back to a time before when this was important, when there was less choice, less brands, more spin. We believed marketers when they told us to buy Ivory soap because it was what we were supposed to use, or at least our mothers or grandmothers did. And beyond that, the spin, I suppose, or I guess the storytelling was a little bit less competitive. But now, without any kind of growth to companies like this, Ivory is one of those case study brands where it's completely undifferentiated. And if I was to decide tomorrow to go out and buy soap, or maybe I want to have an experience when I'm in the spa or buying something for a friend, I'm going to go with a company that's going to offer some kind of backstory. I know who made this. I know why they made it the way they did. I know what products went into it. I know what their supply chain involves. I mean, that's an extreme, maybe or a very niche example, but it just goes to show you that some brands that owned the market entirely and didn't do a great job of evolving with it or telling their story in a way that now modern consumers expect, with truth and authenticity and accessibility, they've become, bargain basement or dime a dozen brands like Ivory.
I suppose that's it for small businesses as well, where we don't want to be in that kind of price to the bottom scenario. We want to sell on other things, don't we? We want to sell on the we're on in this club together. I suppose it's that belonging thing, like I think the soap example is so good. I remember seeing some soap. It was my wife's Christmas present or birthday present, and I thought I'd spent as much as you could spend on soap. Like, it was Aesop, it's beautiful packaging, it's got it's nice, and then we were in Seattle and we went to this store. It's called Le Labo. Feel free to look it up, anyone. And there was $67 hand soap. And it's like, people were lining up, like you saw in the pandemic, people line up outside Lululemon, people lining up to buy this $67 hand soap. And they they built a following, a community. Yeah. All the people in our little line looked a little similar to each other,
Totally. They belong. They feel like they have a sense of ownership in that brand almost, because I've been wearing Lululemon since 1998 or whatever it is. I live this brand. I am this brand. And also the quality and service and delivery is all there. But more importantly, I love the hands that made it. I love the people behind it and their reason for doing what they do. And that's up to Lululemon to read the room and continuously tell that story, evolve that story, fill the gaps and the void, and know do the social listening that says our customers care about Black Lives Matter or climate change or gender equality, and not be afraid to step into that gap and be less afraid. And that's maybe a bit contrarian or extreme for some of our companies. I'm a dentist. I don't need to talk necessarily about, well, okay, but you can't be a robot either. So it's how much personality do you want to infuse into your marketing and messaging, and how are you going to do it? And this is something that it's up to you to determine. There's no magic answer, but generally speaking, the more we can bring ourselves to the picture, the more we're going to differentiate, because today there's a lot of people making soap.
Yeah. It's so interesting, isn't it?
Yeah. All right, next up, social media marketing. Now we've got a whole lot of social media marketing coming up. Next up, of course, is workshop 6, where we're going to really hone in platform by platform. So I hope you tune in for that, where we'll go much deeper into, Facebook versus Instagram versus LinkedIn versus TikTok, and all of the pros and cons and opportunities within each of those platforms currently. But generally speaking, those content pillars and categories are really important because they help us create variety in our online storytelling. They make it so that I'm not just posting promotional, salesy posts. I'm doing some deeper dive, more meaningful storytelling. I'm dividing up my content into educational, inspirational, insightful, personality building, community building, etc., however I want to. And then categories of content, when we say pillars and then categories, are things like how-tos, top 10s, did you knows, Q&As, behind the scenes, unboxings, just ways to think, how do we make it a little bit more spicy and interesting so people want to tune in. They can't wait to open your e-newsletter. They stop scrolling when they get to your post to see what you've done today. And then, of course, that idea of tell me more. When it comes to social media marketing, the stop the scroll is the goal. And the reason that we do that is because we've created curiosity. People want to know what else lies behind this post or this blog or this press release. And thus they click, they dive in, they stick around. You've led them down the garden path. You've created delight or curiosity or something compelling enough that makes them want to learn more about it. Again, on a general sense, less is more. Quality rules and variation wins, where you're not overwhelming me with a bunch of nonsense content that only matters to you and your mom, and it isn't adding value to my day. It's the first reason I'm going to unfollow a brand or a company or unsubscribe, because it is just what they want to say, not what I want to hear. So really taking that in, taking it to heart. There's still a lot of us that are tweeting 7 times a day, or posting 42 Facebook posts a month that are all just kind of promotionally generated, and they don't have any sort of meaning or deep thought to them that can be generated in advance. We're going to talk a little bit more about creating content in advance as we move through future workshops, and I tell you that is the best recipe for creating interesting quality content, is to think about it ahead of time and craft it the month in advance and get it scheduled. Then you can step in with your engagement and your live content, but the rich, deep, meaningful, move the needle stuff happens when we strategize ahead of time. And then add value. This is the most important thing. Add value to me in my day, in my feed, or don't bother posting. If it's not something that is going to add curiosity, delight, education, a story I can retell, an emotional change in your viewer, then what are you posting for? And why? And so that's, again, just something to keep in mind, and it goes back to quality over quantity. Remaining authentic at scale is the goal. So we're ourselves and we are adding value or changing someone's day or knowledge of us, but doing it in a way that can reach many, many people, which is so awesome. So that means that we're not just interrupting, we're delivering what they need. And what is it that they need? We're giving, giving, giving. And then instead of getting the sale, we're asking for it. Permission marketing is what Seth Godin calls it. And essentially that's where we're able to say, hey, by the way, I've got this upcoming webinar, sign up now, or pre-order my book, or sale, come on down, right? And we can't assume though that that's a given. Most of us just go in with the hard ask all the time. It's the telemarketer who's calling you and you're like, I'm more offended by this than ever because you didn't nurture me along. I didn't opt in. How'd you get my number? I didn't want to be a part of this. And we're used to now being served the kind of content we have control over. I subscribe to this. That's why I receive it. And even better, I have a bit of control over what types of communication I subscribe to from this company. And that's what makes me stick around. And it makes me loyal to and love their business because I'm in control, not them. So content calendars, the process that we'll continue to talk about, and basically playing a long game with our social media marketing is probably a nice or maybe a necessary shift for some of us that are posting on the fly heavily promotional content whenever we get around to it. So some of those content category ideas that I mentioned and some additional ones there, but we can really start to make it interesting and fun for people to subscribe to our social channels if we put a little thought and strategy behind it. All right, a few more buckets to go. Anything you want to add to that there, Matt?
No, not at this stage. There is a question
Okay.
that comes, and it's around the different channels. I mean, it's someone who says his biggest audience is on TikTok of 30,000 followers, which sounds like a lot to me, but I know TikTok numbers can be crazy big. But my corporate paid clients are coming from LinkedIn, 1,300 followers. Instagram is where the smallest sales are happening. I'm not sure if I should change my tactic and focus more on LinkedIn versus TikTok. Thoughts?
Well, I'll give you an example of a higher level versus platform by platform, because I think we could all have a variation of that example. My interest is coming here, but my sales are coming from here. Think about when you go to, research a new topic or find a restaurant to take your date on. You go to Google, most likely. Maybe the restaurant's a bad example. You might go to Instagram or something. But let's say I'm researching cars. I'm probably in a transactional state of mind. I'm trying to book, buy, learn. I might be in a research mode, but oftentimes we're researching to get to that holiday booking or to get to that kid's summer camp reservation. So that's a different frame of mind. Where I'm on Instagram, I may not be in a transactional state of mind or goal. In fact, I go on Instagram to personally actually disconnect from having to book children's camps and buy stuff. I want to go there to be entertained. I want to connect with my friends and family. I want to, escape my email. And so I'm not there to buy. I might get sucked into buying something when I'm there, but that's where you're going to build personality with me, build awareness. Your goals on different platforms should be different. I would caution you, though, that your audiences should still be the same. I don't want to just reach people on LinkedIn who are never going to buy from me. I want to reach people on LinkedIn who are also going to see me over on Instagram, where I might be a little more unbuttoned. I might be having a little more fun, doing some more personality building. Whereas over on LinkedIn, my content's a little more educational and transactional. So as I like to say, Apple is Apple is Apple. Whether you're seeing their Super Bowl ad or you're in their store in Chinook Center or you're unboxing a new iPad, the brand is the brand. But they use different platforms and places and spaces for different reasons. And that is perfectly fine. So your Instagram might be personality and awareness building, or your TikTok, I should say, and your LinkedIn might be more conversion based. And hopefully there's some audience overlap in the two. But if there's not, that's okay too. One of the biggest mistakes we often make is abandoning one gender because they never buy from me, or one platform because it's not working, without realizing that it might have other positive aspects to it. Or maybe that gender just hasn't been targeted enough, so you're not getting results from them. And so that's a choice we all have to make. Quick question there on what does number 4 discovery mean, from Hong's asking. Yeah, just generally speaking, like how are you creating kind of content around the idea of getting to know you? So whatever that means to you, awareness building, discovery building, personality building, etc. Thanks, Mana. That's really nice. Okay, so bucket number 4, email marketing. This one gets its own because it's big. I mean, I've said the word subscribe, unsubscribe 60 times already today, which, it's a very untapped opportunity for us. And email marketing is growing again. You might not think so. You might think you're unsubscribing to more things than ever. But the reality is that brands are shifting back to email marketing now because there's so many filters and so many things happening on social media. So I can now ad block like crazy. I can opt out of so many things on my mobile device, Apple versus Facebook. There's just some things going on that are a little bit more crowded. Where we are the most as humans, consumers, prospects, individuals, is our inbox, sadly. And so if you can build your list of subscribers and have them opt in. Literally, I'm saying to you, I'll take that ad. Sure, send it my way. I'm not saying that to anybody else. It's certainly not showing up on YouTube so that Ford can show me pre-roll ads, or on Instagram so I can be spammed with all the things I should buy from people I don't want to hear from. But on my inbox, I'm carefully subscribing to the right types of companies and organizations that I want to hear from. And that's free for you to utilize and very powerful to do so. Awareness building, loyalty building, and nurturing them along with your messaging, your education, your resourcefulness, until you have something that you want to ask them for or offer them. So many emails. I won't go too deep into this because we're going to cover it a lot in the July 28th workshop, but it is changing, not dying. Don't let anybody tell you that the ROI of email marketing is not there, because if done well, it can be extremely high converting. It's always been my best channel in any business I've worked on. And when done well for the companies that I work with, I generally find they feel the same, that, the consistent campaigns we're going to talk about in that workshop, lead generation campaigns where you're building your list, and using freebies or downloads or incentives in order to get people on your list, whether it's get 10% off by subscribing, or get a copy of my ebook or cocktail recipe PDF. Then there's number 2, your nurture campaigns. I'm going to nurture you along with great content, just like Lululemon's going to do regularly with the types of content you opted in for. And then number 3 is conversion or fulfillment campaigns. Hey, you came to our event. What'd you think? Or what do you think about this? Or I'd be crazy not to basically take those existing customers or attendees or whatever and nurture them along into the next sort of conversion.
We've definitely seen it, even on this program. Let's be honest, the people who are signed up today, we want to have them get the benefit from working with a digital service squad member, and so if you're not signed up yet, you'll be part of, if you've given permission, which you probably have, because everyone ticks the box, we'll send you a reminder. And then there's called a drip campaign setup. If someone, they provide their email because they want to learn a little bit more, but they don't get through to that point of signing up, well, we'll remind you each week for the next 6 weeks, just so you get the opportunity to do it. And I was in a meeting this morning when I was talking about events like this, and our director of marketing said, we promote events on Facebook and we have it on our website and we have it on Eventbrite. But when we include that link in our newsletter, that's when the signups happen. Like that totally is the thing, and that's, that's our list. So it's great to see.
Awesome. Yes. And so that workshop is July 28th, workshop number 7. So I encourage anyone who's interested in furthering their email marketing to join us there. Okay. Tactic number 5, website, obviously a big one. And with that, your search. How great is your searchability? That's your search engine optimization. And then of course, when we land on your website, are we converting? Is your website doing its job? So what do you know? There's a workshop for that. As I mentioned, we've strategically built all of these workshops to cover some of these big marketing buckets. So that's a little bit later on. But for now, what I'm going to say is that it's a great time to build your own website and own it. Long gone are these like customized several $100,000 websites that we don't have the ability to edit and update and control on our own. You hold the keys to your website like never before. And with the tools and the content management systems is what they're called, but they're basically the DIY website builders like Squarespace, Wix, WordPress, Shopify. We can do this. This is now a no-brainer and a must-have for businesses. Once we know or we have the keys to our clear and concise and simple website that is not overwhelming and confusing, and it's doing its job to get people to the answers and products or services they expect, the power of that thing is unbelievable. And as much as I said email marketing and messaging are important, your website is sort of the last bastion. It's where we're sending people. I'm not selling from social generally, and I'm not selling from my email marketing generally. Like Matt, I'm sending people to my website to subscribe, book, call, buy, right? So some of you might rely on an Etsy page. Okay, but you're not in control of that. And as we've seen this last few months, Etsy can raise their transaction rates at any time on you. A site can shut down. We need to be in control. These owned channels. You've got earned media, which is like your followers or your media mentions. You've got your paid channels, your ad campaigns, your any kind of paid efforts. And then you've got your owned channels. And you could say, well, it's my Instagram followers, it's my TikTok subscribers, but really you don't own those. You own your website and your mailing list. So thinking of that as you build and as you prioritize your efforts. So we'll go deeper into all things website in that workshop, but the idea being that less is more here as well. As a user, I don't speak your language and I don't need a 49-page website or every article you've ever written. Hide that in LinkedIn articles or in your investor reports. What I need when I get to your website is all my questions answered immediately and the next steps to be really clear. So this is a huge bucket for us, for some of us in particular, to think about, because I've worked with advertising agencies myself before when I'm outsourcing some Google campaigns or whatever it is, and they'll say, we don't even want to run this paid campaign for tens of thousands of dollars until you clean up that landing page, or your website load speed is better, or your mobile friendliness score is a little higher, because you're wasting your money. Like, people are going to click on that ad at $5 a pop, and they're going to get to your website and bounce, and you've just wasted that money entirely. So we need to really think about this and factor in some of the website must-haves, maybe a little bit better than we are. And it's not as hard as it sounds, I promise you. All right, I'm sorry that I'm flying a bit here, but I want to get through the last three marketing tactics. The customer journey that we spoke about at the outset. So what does that mean? Well, this has changed. I like to talk about an orchestra of experiences, right? So, I'm booking that trip with WestJet, and I'm seamlessly doing so by logging into my WestJet, profile on the website. My points are there, my balance is there. I'm able to upgrade my seat. Great, my journey's going well, and that's I'm already halfway through the journey. I didn't have to discover WestJet as a new customer. I'm already halfway through that transactional or awareness stage. But then from there, it's that seamless orchestra, the check-in, the whatever, the logging into my app the day of, etc. But then I get on the plane and I purchase the Wi-Fi and it doesn't work. And I'm like, ah. And is some of that other stuff erased? Maybe. But either way, it's a journey for all of us, whether that's just at the purchase and checkout stage or the actual deployment of your product, or it's getting there, like the car purchase journey example. And where do we have physical and digital touch points or abilities to influence the journey along the way? And where are we dropping the ball? And that could just be a matter of let's simplify this journey a lot here and say, well, I'm a new t-shirt maker in Edmonton. And first step is awareness. So I need to show up and search. And second step is trust building and authority building, or whatever I want to call it. And that's my Instagram account. And I'm working really hard on my did you know and behind the scenes videos. And then third is my website. And that's where I'm sending people to check out. And yep, my checkout works. And then my fulfillment and my shipping. So that journey can be really simple, but you've got to know where they're finding you and where they're not along the way, and how we can perhaps influence some of those things. So the customer journey has changed, especially in the last few years. And they're probably very different than you think. And how we're showing up to measure those or meet those expectations, I should say, is something to keep an eye on. So today's winning brands are doing this really, really well, and recognizing where their experience makers and experience breakers happen, or simply awareness makers and breakers too, right? It doesn't always have to be about the experience if we're a newer brand and we don't, they can't necessarily experience us yet. So the exercise here becomes a bit of just an assessment. How and where are you reaching people digitally and physically? And really in the past, it used to be entirely physical. before the internet or digital marketing. And now we can rely on things that are more scalable. I don't just need one billboard. I can have one Instagram ad that I show across Asia or whatever, my city and that city and that city. When people are evaluating me, they don't just have to call and ask me questions. They can look at my Google reviews, my Instagram page, my YouTube videos, my website, etc. And you get the idea. But there's no shortage of places for us to go to tell our story, so that then they can make their decision a lot easier.
And I think when we see that journey not have that planned element, that's when I find nothing more frustrating than seeing a small business do some paid advertising and then they don't realize the sale on the physical end because they don't answer the phone or they don't return the quote on time. I see it all the time, people running paid ads. Yeah. But then the actual experience doesn't live up to that. And obviously it's it's a bigger business issue probably, but very, very frustrating.
It's so true. Yeah. And building whatever you need to build, for whether it's a funnel, we often talk about the marketing funnel, or you turn it on its side and it's the journey. But that's exactly the point. What Matt just said of I often use the example of where I'll say to my team, if we're not using our chat box on our website properly, why are we bothering with all the Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn marketing? Because now these people have made it to our site, they're ours to lose. And we're idiots if we don't show up for them there where we said we would, and they probably want to convert. So shame on us for missing that final step of the journey and not getting them to the finish line properly.
And I think, looking at this as well and looking at the mapping, also, it helps us diagnose, okay, well, what is the issue for us in our business? So often I would speak when I was before in my current role and helping people kind of navigate this. People thought they had a sales problem because they weren't making enough sales. But every sales meeting they had, they were closing them. They were failing to realize, in fact, it's a funnel problem. We're just not getting enough people into us. We close 100% of the sales when we actually have that person in front of us. So I think by having a map, and we call it a map, it really does help us identify, okay, well, where's the missing piece for sure.
Totally. And there's some I can go deep into examples here of kind of tactics that might show up along the way with the funnel and what your touch points are. But this is kind of up to, again, all of you to identify what it is you're doing and what you're not. And maybe it's a matter of asking a new customer, where did you find us? That's a pretty simple question. We can also, something to note, we can manufacture our funnel and our touch points really well, but we can't control it, right? At the end of the day, people might say to you, oh, my friend told me to buy, so I did. And you're like, God, but I invested so much time in the nurture stage, well, it doesn't matter as long as you're there somewhere, because there are gaps to be filled. And make no mistake, if you're really good at awareness building and educating people on electric vehicles, but at the end of the day, your competitor swoops in when they're ready to book a test drive electric vehicle. And then that's where Hyundai slips in and Toyota falls off the map. Well, shame on Toyota, right? And so it is important for us to both, again, kind of art and science, build the amount of content on the internet that they can find, but also be mindful of the analytics and insights that show you, like Matt just said, that's an anecdotal note. We're just not getting the sales, but why? Where are they falling off? And Google Analytics can tell us that. It'll show you where they fall off your pages, where they bounce, what page has your highest drop-off rate, and how many steps it's taking to get to checkout. I'll talk about this in the website workshop, but I redesigned our entire checkout because it was taking on average 12 clicks or 12 pages to get people to check out. And none of us have time for that in 2022. Get me there in one step or 3 pages tops, right? You don't need to educate me that much along the way. Just get me there. So there's some exercises for you here. And I'd love for you all to think about these. They're in the workbook. And the idea this week is really trying to identify your key platforms. What's priority number 1, 2, and 3 for you in that marketing mix, and why? And do you want to talk about it in terms of posting frequency or commitments you want to make to it? Or is it more of just my first priority is get my website house in order and build some better messaging? So whatever you think is required there. The idea though is just to make some commitments. Okay, the very last two buckets that I'm going to breeze through, we have a lot of additional content to talk about in paid reach further into this workshop series, but we're not there yet. We're establishing our messaging, our audience, and our platforms before we dive into paying to display our messaging on them, right? So we will for sure get there. But I want to just make sure that you are aware for now that they are very important pieces of the puzzle, and certainly some stuff that I'm excited to talk about with you in a few weeks' time. The final piece after paid content, so that would be our ad campaigns, our targeted paid delivery of social media and website ad, or I should say Google ads, is number 8, systems and measurement. So that would be our insights, right? So knowing the numbers that we need to be aware of. I just mentioned a few. Open rates of our e-newsletter and click-through rates, very important. Social, what are the engagement rates? So higher than or more important, I should say, than the surface level metrics of likes, comments, shares, like engagement, click-throughs, purchases, acquisition. So I'm on Google Analytics and I can see how many people came to me from Instagram, how many people came from LinkedIn. Well, now I can justify my Instagram and LinkedIn efforts and how many people bought from each of those. So we'll talk more about that in our additional workshops, including workshop number 8 is all about the metrics that matter. But yeah, for now, we just want to be aware of the fact that there is so much data for us to look at, and we need to narrow it down to just the ones that actually matter to us today. Even in Facebook alone, there's literally 400 different pieces of information you can look at in terms of results or insights. And do they all matter? Absolutely not. But we do need to check in with the ones that do. So wrapping up, I'm sorry I haven't left a lot of time for questions, but I'm certainly still happy to answer any if they get posted. We want to build loyalty and then think about how that becomes brand love, right? That's how we keep people sticking around or coming back as repeat customers. Thinking about building trust more than traffic. You can have 100,000 subscribers and 1 million website views a month, but if they don't trust you, love you, believe in you, want to buy from you, who cares? You're just noise, and your sales are not there. Creating unforgettable experiences, however that looks like for you. It could just be in great customer service, right? But that customer journey matters. And where we drop the ball, we lose a customer or we lose that person that we've been trying to get their eyeballs on. And we all know customer acquisition costs are not low, and not just money, but time and effort. And then the meaningful metrics. So be human as much as you can. Make people fall for you. Just want to be, drawn into your sphere, however big or small. Establish what we know as the know, like, and trust factor. I know you, I like you, I trust you and your people and your suppliers and your offering. Pull the curtains back and let us in. And it doesn't have to be perfect. The marketing mix is big and broad, and I hate to say sometimes overwhelming, but it doesn't have to be perfect. Just start somewhere. And, as we said, prioritize, determine your platforms and the frequency of where and when you're showing up, and then create a process for doing so.
I love that message. I think that's so important because I think that's where so many people get stuck in this kind of paralysis of it needs to be perfect. It needs to be the A+, but when I put it out there, but actually even from the very, very biggest brands, we'll see that we know they test ads, that they'll maybe test a message that is only ever seen by 300 people because it just does not do anything for people. I think it's, I've loved the message here, really. It feels all like, be ambitious with our marketing. Like we can be that business that we see in our industry that we think, oh, everything they do just looks so good. There is really nothing stopping the group here from being that person, but it's a journey. Like it won't come this week, but we can definitely support, and there's so much help online for that. But yeah, we can be that business that we just think, oh, they are awesome. There is nothing stopping us. It's time and doing it.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Kelly. That was great timing.
Great. Hope I didn't overwhelm everyone too much. I apologize that this is a bit of a big one, but moving forward
this one, because it just really sums everything up, doesn't it? It kind of gives us the way forward for future weeks and allows us to kind of take stock on what we've looked at so far. So I think it's awesome. So thank you so much. And yeah, social success on July 14th is the next webinar in the series. We look forward to seeing everyone then. Thanks, and have a great Canada Day weekend, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.